Canon Events, Superboy's dark betrayal nearly cost him everything and almost destroyed two teams. Image by Scoot Allen/Ryan Rice. Betrayal strikes deep as Superboy's darkest secrets are exposed, endangering his closest allies and forever changing the young boy of steel. Published 3 hours ago. Scoot Allen is a comics junior editor at CBR. He has worked in the industry for over a decade and has written for print and online media sources like Screen Rant, The Gamer, Game Rant, MovieWeb, EGM's Geek Magazine/Geek Exchange, Grizzly Bomb, where he penned the Slushiverse Theory, What Culture, RoguePlanet.tv, and The Urban 30 before joining CBR. Welcome to Canon Events, a weekly column where I'll take a look at some of the darkest comic moments from our favorite heroes and villains and how they left an indelible impact on fans and sometimes even the comic industry. Fans have watched the growth of a few different Superboys over the years. Young Clark Kent's adventures as the first Superboy have been retconned and reintroduced over the years, while young John Kent carried on his father's legacy for a short time using the mantle as well. However, a unique version arrived in the 90s who would not only earn the name Superboy from the Man of Steel himself, but he would help define it for decades as it equally defined him. This modern take on Superboy seemed like he could handle it all without a care in the world, but he would eventually face his darkest trial. The Insiders was a crossover event that ran through Teen Titans, Volume 3, #24-26 and Outsiders, Volume 3, #24-25. Both titles followed two teams that were forged in loss and further impacted by the true reveal of Superboy's dark origins. The crossover event would feature two of DC's most iconic villains as they came together and manipulated their puppets to tear down both teams and bring about their own dark futures. It was an unforgettable chapter in the life of Superboy that almost cost him everything he held dear, while also nearly ending both teams that had already dealt with so much. Young Justice's graduation day introduced the team to tragedy. The modern Superboy first appeared in the 90s during the death and return of Superman storyline. He was somewhat aware of his origins as a clone, though there were a few holes in the story since he broke out of Cadmus instead of being released. When Superman eventually returned, he and Superboy headed to Cadmus in search of answers. They learned that Kryptonian DNA had proven difficult to clone properly, so Cadmus scientists had mixed it with a human donor to stabilize the cloning process. This explained why Superboy's powers weren't quite the same, as they had to supplement the lack of some Kryptonian abilities with his new tactile telekinesis. Superboy's human genetic makeup came from the director of Cadmus, the villainous Paul Westfield. This shocked Superboy, but he moved on from the news with a drive to find his own place. Metropolis was a little crowded with Superman, and he struggled to make his home in Hawaii, even with his celebrity status. It wasn't until he met Bart Allen/Impulse and Tim Drake/Robin that he found his place with a new team called Young Justice. Fans had seen young heroic teams before, but Young Justice was different. The next generation of heroes perfectly represented the youth of their era and operated with minimal superhero supervision. They had a safe place with each other, but often found themselves in situations beyond their ability to control. Young Justice was eventually pulled into a devastating attack on their older counterparts in the Titans during the Graduation Day storyline. The arrival of a malfunctioning robot known as Indigo triggered a Superman robot as well, which attacked the Titans and cost the lives of Donna Troy and Omin. The Titans broke up due to the traumatic loss of their longtime team members, and Young Justice realized they needed to grow up if they wanted to continue being heroes. Some of the Titans agreed to reform the Teen Titans to serve as a training ground for their new young charges from Young Justice. And the Titans who left the team after Graduation Day eventually formed a new roster of the Outsiders. This included the mysterious robot Indigo, who hoped to atone for her misguided actions when she first arrived. Both teams had started to find success, which meant it was time for another gut punch. The Insiders crossover introduced the modern Teen Titans to Betrayal. During his time with the Teen Titans, Superboy had discovered that he had been lied to at Cadmus about the real identity of his human genes. Lex Luthor, one of the secret owners of Cadmus, reached out privately to Superboy to reveal the shocking news. It was Luthor's own DNA that had been used in the cloning process, which meant that Connor Kent/Superboy was half Superman and half Luthor. He told his closest friend on the team, Robin, and the pair kept it secret from the others while they investigated Luthor's claims. Unfortunately, Luthor took advantage of their confusion and sent a message to Superboy that included a coded transmission. This secret code unlocked something inside Superboy, turning him into Luthor's mind control puppet while also activating previously dormant Kryptonian abilities like his heat vision. Under Luthor's orders, Superboy brutally attacked the Teen Titans, laying waste to the team and severely injuring his closest allies. He savagely broke Robin's arm in battle and viciously beat Cassie Sandsmark/Wonder Girl, whom he had developed romantic feelings for over the years. At the same time, a hidden program activated in Indigo, revealing that she was actually Brainiac 8 from the future. She brutally turned on her teammates in The Outsiders and even attacked her romantic interest, the metamorph offshoot named Shift. Under the command of their two villainous parents, Luthor Superboy and Indigo/Brainiac 8 united to take the fight to their allied teams and carry out the maniacal plans of their supervillain controllers. Wonder Girl and Shift were each able to break through to their respective partners during the battle, though the damage had already been done. Indigo was only able to temporarily regain control of her body, long enough to beg for her end so she wouldn't hurt anyone else. Shift transmuted her body into organics so she could die as a human in his arms. Superboy regained control of his body and took the fight to a Wasutamat Luthor, though he was left devastated by his own betrayal. However, his dark turn came with some positives that would allow Connor Kent to grow from this traumatic event. Superboy's greatest enemy unlocked his true potential. When Superboy first learned of his dark parentage, he had asked his Teen Titans teammate Raven if she was able to detect a soul within him. She was not able to at the time, which put him in a dark place initially and helped Luthor take over. However, during his recovery period at Ma and Pa Kent's farm in Smallville, Raven dropped by to see if she could help. She revealed that for the first time, she could sense a bright new soul within him, one that had been born out of his rebellion against Luthor. It marked the first real decision he made under his complete control since he first escaped Cadmus so long ago. This canon event was so impactful that it has been adapted outside of the comics on more than one occasion. Smallville introduced its own version of the Superman/Luthor Superboy, originally known as LX-15. The animated adaptation of Young Justice also adapted his unique parentage, though it took a much different route with the storyline. More recently, the live-action Titans introduced a new version of Connor Kent/Superboy who started going by Connor Luthor in the series adaptation of his dark betrayal under Lex Luthor's control. His ability to fight back against Luthor and the revelation that he had a soul in the comics meant he wasn't just a copy of Superman or Lex Luthor. He was finally his own man, and he sought to prove that he was worthy of his mantle under his own merits. This would have fatal consequences during the Infinite Crisis event. Working together with Nightwing, the next generation of the world's finest were instrumental in stopping the evil Earth-3's Alexander Luthor and his dark plans to remake the multiverse under his control. Unfortunately, it cost Connor Kent his life at the hands of the twisted Superboy Prime. Superboy would eventually return from his Infinite Crisis death, much like his predecessor, though he had some assistance from the Legion of Superheroes in the far future. However, Connor Kent/Connell never forgot where, or who, he came from, and those dark origins continued to drive him to be a better hero, the best Superboy, and a proud member of the House of L.